Young love. The will they, won't they plot point that keeps many of you rabidly tuned into a show. Over in B-Plot Town on Steven Universe, we were introduced to Sadie and Lars and watched as they tried to figure out just what they were to one another. Today, we'll be talking about them as individuals, as a pair, and why I think it makes sense they don't end up as a couple. I'm Kris Carr, and today I want to talk to you about Sadie and Lars from Steven Universe. Before we start talking about this pair, I want to give a big ol' shout out to all of our supporters on Patreon, especially our super nerd sponsor of the day, Subassembly Required 75. Thanks to heroes like them, I will talk about Steven Universe for the rest of my natural life, and then more after NerdWire reanimates my corpse. If you want to help support that plan, head on over to our Patreon page and see if a donation tier works for you. Well, thank you kindly. If you just want to get your mitts on some tasty Steven Universe swag, click that TeePublic link and buy yourself something pretty. On to the donut children!
Steven to Sadie and Lars! Is this like a joke or something?
Hello, Steven. What kind of donut would you like?
First, let's talk about each of these characters as individuals. Let's kick it off with Sadie. Sadie is sweet and shy with an incredibly kind heart. This leads to her being taken advantage of often, though. She's mature for her age and places a lot of value on her job, taking her position at the Big Donut seriously, working to be as professional as possible. Her crush on Lars often leads her to picking up his slack and covering for him at the shop. Sadie often feels like an outcast. She experiences a lot of social anxiety, and at the start of the series, hates the idea of being the center of attention, as we see in the episode Sadie's Song. Over time, Sadie's confidence grows, and she becomes a full-time singer, donning the name Sadie Killer. Sadie does have a dark side to her. When pushed too far, taken advantage of too much, she eventually retaliates. We see evidence of this in the episode Joking Hazard, when Sadie pranks Lars with fire salt to get back at him for faking an injury to get out of work and kick it with the cool kids. And Sadie also isn't always an innocent bystander. She's known to pry into the lives of others, a trait she shares with her mother. She most often does this with Lars, believing she truly knows what's best for him. We see a massive example of this in the episode Island Adventure. We'll explore that situation further in a bit. There's a positive side to her pushing him too, though. In The Good Lars, she and Steven encourage Lars to share more of his true self with the cool kids. Lars bakes an amazing ube dessert, a nod to his Filipino heritage. But despite his friends' rave reviews, he's still too embarrassed to share it and bails on bringing it to a party. And Sadie just can't wrap her head around why he'd do that. Lars appears to be Sadie's foil in a lot of ways. Honestly, at the start of the series, Lars is kind of a douche canoe. He's snarky, lazy, and takes advantage of his bud Sadie. His jabs at others are to help mask his own self-esteem issues that have stayed with him since he was a kid. He desperately wants to be a cool kid and clashes a lot with Steven, since Steven is his polar opposite. Steven's comfortable in his own skin and is always looking out to help people. Lars can't risk letting anyone see how insecure the real him is. He even would lie to Sadie and ditch work in order to spend more time with the cool kids of Beach City.
Who needs scrummy old Lars?
Steven! He's made a fool of me! Idiot!
Lars definitely manipulates Sadie because of her feelings for him. His endearing nickname for her, Player 2, ends up making her question if she's just some placeholder for him, if Player 2 could just be anybody. Lars then has the audacity to act jealous when Ronaldo Fryman starts to show interest in Sadie. I mean, I get it. I definitely pulled that move in junior high of only liking someone when someone else paid attention to them. But it's not a cool move, and it definitely isn't doing Lars any favors. Lars does eventually let his walls come down during the events of I Am My Mom and Stuck Together. He admits that he feels like a wuss and can't fathom why Steven would put any faith in him. Turns out, all those times Lars was mocking Steven, he was actually just in awe of him. And yeah, Lars has acted cowardly and small in the past. He ran away from that potluck thinking it'd be the end of him if people didn't like his food. He was jealous of the kids liking Sadie. He hid behind her when Topaz came for Steven's friends. But he eventually becomes more than the slacker high school boy we meet at the start of the series. The off-colors really seem to change him. I mean, who would have bet on Lars making the sacrifice play? Obviously, if a near-death experience gives you perspective, actual death and magical resurrection will do a number on you.
You brought me back to life. Just let me be somebody who deserved it.
An interesting little tidbit that could have foretold us all of Lars's fate. His full name, Laramie, is of Native American origins and means tears of love. So maybe he was destined this whole time to be saved by Steven's powers. Fated or otherwise, Lars's time with the off-colors definitely changes him for the better and boosts his self-esteem. In Lars of the Stars, we see a brave, courageous Lars. Fun fact about Lars' captain uniform, it bears a striking resemblance to Harlock's from the manga and anime series Space Pirate Captain Harlock. Lars even has a scar over his eye where Captain Harlock has an eye patch. In Steven Universe Future, we learn through a voiceover from Steven that upon returning to Beach City, Lars has opened up his own pastry shop and even caters little homeschool's graduation. He appears to still have feelings for Sadie, but seems happy for her that she's happy. And he's looking forward to getting back on his ship with his crew and further exploring the universe. Now, when it comes to the two of them and their dynamic, Sadie and Lars seem to have a sort of love-hate relationship. Steven even refers to them as married in Coach Steven. As we've established, Lars can take Sadie for granted and take advantage of her. But through it all, they remain good friends and typically appear together in the series. Like I said, we often see one of them reacting jealously towards the other. This is another thing that made me uneasy with them getting together. In a secure relationship, I just don't think you have those feelings. But then again, we are talking about a pair of teens. Sadie hates that Lars wants to hang out with Clix or Buck Dewey instead of her. Lars can't stand the idea of Sadie being with Ronaldo, so the coupling of this pair, both by us, the audience, and by Steven, gets a bit questionable. Are these two actually good for each other? Just because we want people together doesn't mean they necessarily should be. We've talked a bit about Sadie being taken advantage of, but let's shift that over to Lars. In the episode Island Adventure, Steven warps Sadie and Lars with him to Mask Island, an island where Steven and the Gems are tracking a dangerous monster gem. Lars tries to return to the warp pad, only to find it missing, thus stranding Sadie, Lars, and Steven on the island together. While there, Sadie uses her survival skills, and Steven notices Sadie and Lars bonding more. Lars eventually can't handle being stranded and bursts into tears over being homesick. Sadie reassures him that she's here for him. In this vulnerable moment, Lars asks Sadie if she's ever lonely, even when she's around other people, and she nods to indicate she does. Lars then kisses Sadie, Sadie kisses him back, and Steven awkwardly interrupts their moment by bursting into song. Cute, right? Well, not entirely. Confronted by danger, the three take off running, prompting Lars to start crying again about wanting to go home. A guilty Sadie then uncovers the warp pad that she hid. Why? Because she thought Lars needed a vacation. Sure, this had good intentions, I guess, but stranding your friends on an island? Nope, nope, nope. Lars obviously doesn't take it well and blames Sadie for everything that's happened, even going as far to accuse her of taking advantage of him. You know what? I'm with Lars here. Sadie definitely manipulated a situation to spend time with Lars, and kissing him back when he was feeling vulnerable thanks to the circumstances she constructed? That seems pretty wrong. At the very least, there's something that makes you feel a little bit oogie about the whole thing. And after confronted, an angry Sadie pushes Lars off of a cliff. It's an accident, but still. So this is obviously not a healthy dynamic, y'all. The meddling doesn't stop with Sadie. We see Steven insert himself in their relationship a couple of times as well, since he believes they're in love with one another. In the new Lars, Steven goes as far as to show up to Sadie's as Lars, watch romantic movies with her, and confess him being Lars's, love for Sadie. This leads Sadie to thinking Lars is teasing her. But because real Lars and Sadie continue to hang out, Steven is dead set on them being each other's person. Sadie moves on and dates Shep. And when this leads Steven to demand why Sadie isn't with Lars, it's revealed that, well, the two of them have talked it out, and they're just gonna be friends. And if they're fine with that, then surely Steven should respect their wishes.
The two of us tried to reconnect a few times, but we both just grew apart.
She knows how happy I am that she found someone better for her.
I think this is a really important lesson, guys. It's okay that they aren't together. They fought a lot, and despite rom-coms making us think that's all part of the meet-cute process of getting to your soulmate, there also needs to be respect and boundaries. By Steven Universe Future, they do respect each other. They're capable of communicating honestly, openly, and effectively. They love each other in a different way. They challenged the other, made each other grow, and they're still growing. Remember, Sadie and Lars were in high school in Steven Universe, so in Future, they're probably in their early 20s. Maybe these crazy kids will figure it out and be better versions of themselves, and one day they can date and it'll make sense. Just because you spend a lot of time with someone doesn't mean you have to be with them romantically. Furthermore, you need to love yourself before you can love anyone else. Lars had to drop his facade. Sadie had to overcome her self-doubt. They help each other do that, and I think that's even better than some high school sweetheart schmaltz. Of course, this is just my opinion on Lars and Sadie, and I want to know if I'm totally off. Do you and your fanfiction believe they should be together? Well, let me know in the comments down below. Thanks to everyone on Patreon, TeePublic, and all of you who just found us today. For more videos, click to the left. Thanks for watching. See you, Space Cowboy.